What a phenomenal season 4 we are having. It's so exciting. I want to say thank you to all of our amazing guests and to our partner, Intuit QuickBooks, for sharing your inspirational hero stories and the communities surrounding the streets you grew up on. Our next guest on this season of Street You Grew Up On has not only been on our televisions for years with iconic roles on shows including Seinfeld and Veep, but she's also an outspoken advocate for what is right and what is just. With 8 Emmys, a Golden Globe, a Screen Actors Guild Award, and so much more, she's clearly a talent among talents. Please welcome Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hi, Kerry.
I'm really happy you're here.
I'm really happy to be here.
As you know,
Yes.
so I started doing these conversations because I wanted to talk to people that I love and admire about the street that they grew up on. Because I
Yes.
feel like we are all the lead character in the story of our lives.
Yes.
And so the street you grew up on is your once upon a time. So to learn the name of the street you grew up on, I'm going to ask your porn name, your sexy alter ego name. Yes, going right there. So your porn name is the name of your first pet, followed by the street that you grew up on.
So the porn name would be Pippi Park Avenue.
She's a very elegant adult film star.
She is.
Pippi Park Avenue. Okay, so tell me, so Park Avenue was where you were born.
Yeah, and then
You grew up where?
I grew up, we moved from New York when I was 7.
Oh, yeah.
We lived overseas for about a year, and then we came back in Sri Lanka, which was then called Ceylon, and then I came back, and I lived in Washington, D.C., where I spent the rest of my youth. And that's where University Avenue was.
Wow. Is that in the Georgetown area? Or?
That's in an area called Spring Valley. It's right next to American University.
Oh, yes. Oh, I know exactly. Like where all the embassies are.
Yes.
Up there. Oh, wow, wow,
Yeah.
wow. Okay, tell me about the house on University. What did it look like? How many rooms?
It was a red brick, very sort of traditional home. I loved that house.
You did.
I did love that house.
What did you love about it?
I loved my neighborhood. Because there were kids on either side of our house,
Oh,
our
that's
next door neighbors.
amazing.
And so we formed a theater troupe.
No.
Yes,
It started so early.
it did. We were the university players.
Of course you were.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's great.
And so we used to do shows in the basement of our house.
Wow.
And we did a number of shows.
Now, you were the oldest sibling?
I was the oldest sibling.
Were you the oldest in this group?
I was one of the oldest.
So were you kind of like director, producer?
I was pretty much,
in
I was, I was a multi-hyphenate for sure.
Very early on.
Very early
Yes.
on.
You were
And
VPing at the university players. Were you like, was there like one person and you were the vice president of the players? How did it work?
You know, it's funny to look back on it. I don't really remember how the how certain decisions were made. There was one girl named Margaret Edson. We called her Peggy back then. She and her older sister Mary. We would sort of come up with shows we wanted to do.
God, you wrote these shows.
First of all, we danced. We did modern dance, of course. I'm sure you knew
so
that.
many hyphenates.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
We would also lip sync to records. We thought people would
Amazing.
want to see that.
Yeah, that's entertainment.
Yeah, that's entertainment for sure. And then one summer we did a proper, like, full-blown production of Sorry Wrong Number, the play/movie. It's a murder suspense mystery. I played Mrs. Stevenson. And I just have to tell you one thing.
Yes, please.
So Margaret Edson,
Yes.
who we called Peggy back in
Yes.
the day, so she went on to win a Pulitzer Prize.
No.
Swear to God, for her play Wit.
I love that play.
I know. She wrote it.
Oh my goodness.
She wrote it.
What was in the water in this house, in that basement?
Isn't that
Genius
crazy?
was being spun.
Yeah, she went on and wrote that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you know early on that you wanted to have a life in the arts?
I did.
You did.
Did you?
I didn't know it was possible. I knew I loved it, but I thought I had to get a real job because I didn't know anybody who really did this for a living.
Yeah.
Did you know you were funny? Did you want to be a comedian or
No, I didn't want to be a comedian at all. I just wanted to be an actor.
I want to know about the food in this house on the street you grew up on. Were there concessions in the shows?
No, I don't. I mean, unless my mom made something and put it upstairs.
Was your mom a good cook?
Yes.
Yes? What did she make?
She made an awesome cinnamon toast.
Oh, that's sweet.
Don't you like cinnamon toast?
Yes.
Maybe not the best thing for you.
No, but so good.
So tasty.
Yes.
So tasty.
Oof. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there rituals around cooking or eating in this house?
Well, it was a traditional house. My mom, in the sense that my mom made dinners, and my dad, my stepdad, would come home, and the dinner would be there, and we would sit at the table.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Every night.
Yeah. Every night. Yeah.
So special.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite meals that you remember?
There are a few recipes that she's sent my way that are good go-to recipes, like a lemon artichoke chicken dish with panko.
Yes, please.
Parmesan. Just crazy good. And my grandmother, Dee Dee, she used to make peanut butter cookies, and those were go-tos. Yeah. And deviled eggs. I don't know. What about you? What about you?
There's one really special recipe. My mom taught herself how to make Jamaican black cake, which is like a fruit cake with a ton of rum, and it's black from like molasses, and it's extraordinary. And she makes it around the holidays, and so that's a big.
It just sounds like a Christmas fruit cake.
Yes, but it's very, very dense because the fruit is blended up, so it's very moist and not so chunky, more like smooth. And I think it can get you drunk because there's so much rum.
Oh, there's so much rum.
So much rum, which they say cooks off, but then after they pull it out of the oven, they pour more rum on it. It's just so
yummy.
Yeah, yeah. Were there special holidays in that house on University?
Christmas.
Christmas was a big one.
Yeah, Christmas was a biggie.
What do you remember about Christmas in that house?
I remember coming down the stairs to see what Santa left. Although we really never, we all knew it wasn't. Well, I don't know if children
depend on who's. If you're a child, turn it off.
Well, we all knew about the story of Santa.
Well done.
And but it was always very exciting to see what was underneath the tree.
Yeah.
And I remember one year, I found where the presents were.
Oh, that's so crushing, isn't it?
Yeah, and I looked, and I really looked at them.
And there was your first best acting role ever, right?
Thank you.
Did you have to pretend that morning?
Completely. I had to pretend surprise.
Yes.
And it was a little bit sad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's the real coming of age.
Yeah.
Actually.
And it was kind of isolating because I felt guilty and I had to fake it.
And even with your siblings, you probably faked it.
Oh, yeah. Of course. What about you? What about holidays for you?
Christmas was a big one for us. And then we had this funny situation where my parents are fairly political people. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't celebrate July 4th traditionally because my parents wanted us to know that Black people were not free on Independence Day.
Oh, God, good for them.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
But I have this cousin, Raheem, whose birthday was July 4th, and for his birthday we had fireworks. So we were not celebrating Independence Day.
Yeah.
But he was the only cousin who got fireworks on his. We were all like, why does he get fireworks? I want to know about your dad's philanthropy because you made this incredible documentary about him, and he's thought of as kind of a very altruistic person. And I feel like you have taken on that identity of service and giving back and helping community.
Yes.
Yes.
He was a businessman. So this is my biological dad who lived in New York. He was very, very aware of the racial inequity in our country from the get-go. And so he did a lot of work to help that situation as best he could. But ultimately, he's passed away now, but his real legacy that he leaves behind, in addition to a number of scholarships that he's set up for African-American students, he was an art collector, a big art collector, and like crazy. So as he got older towards the end of his life, it was just too much, right? And
like, how much is too much? Like 2,000 pieces?
I would say over 5,000 pieces.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So what happened was he saw do you know who Jeffrey Canada is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we saw Jeffrey Canada, I want to say on 60 Minutes. And he called me and he said, I have this idea what I'm going to do. I want to take all of this art and set it up in a foundation. And the notion will be that we'll sell the art down and all the proceeds will go to benefit the Harlem Children's Zone, which is Jeffrey Canada's
brainchild. Yes.
And so that's what's happened. So it's the
Really?
William Louis-Dreyfus Foundation. And we've been able to give some significant funds.
It's so beautiful to love where it comes from and to love where it's going. Right?
Totally.
It's really special.
And it's particularly because, or one interesting piece of this is, my dad has and had both, we sold some, a huge collection of Bill Traylor's work. Bill Traylor was a former slave who made intricate, detailed, brilliant works of art. And it's the only art that's ever been cataloged or even that is in existence of
an enslaved person.
An enslaved person.
Wow.
So the fact that this art, which now commands actually quite a high price, that those
going
funds,
into Harlem.
isn't that good?
Oh, I just got chills.
I know, I just gave myself
I
chills
love
too.
that.
It's so beautiful.
Oh,
I know, it makes me really happy.
wow.
Yeah.
Were there other role models, like, in addition to your dad and your mom? Sounds like she was so foundational.
Yes.
Were there other grown-ups, other role models in your community, teachers, mentors?
Yeah, I had a teacher in high school who was my physics teacher, believe it or not.
Wow.
His name was Marty Coyne, and he just had a really good attitude about education and about being with students. And the school that I was going to at this point was a pretty conservative all-girls school.
Me too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I also went to an all-girls private school.
Where?
Interesting.
Can
Spence in New
Oh,
York.
you went to Spence?
Yeah.
No
Where
kidding.
did you go? Where
Yeah,
were
the
you?
school I went to was called Holton Arms
In D.C.
in D.C. And Mr. Coyne was our geometry and physics teacher both. But he was super, he had an incredible joie de vivre, very funny, and he made that stuff of physics and geometry accessible. I didn't have a real brain for math in particular, but he made it, he opened up my head to it. And he was a really good man. And he used to sign all of our papers. He'd always sign them, have fun at all costs. Mr. Coyne. And, you know, of course, that can be misinterpreted. but it was really a lovely message that I've sort of carried forward.
Yeah. I think of you as somebody who has incredible joie de vivre.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Oh, good.
I do.
Thank you.
Because I feel like you throw yourself into your work with such passion and joy, but also into life.
Yeah. It's good. Life can be good.
Yes.
Even when it sucks.
Yes.
You can find your way to something.
By reframing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to do a segment called What Would Blow Your Mind? And I want you to think back to that little girl on university. What about your life today would just explode her mind if you went back and talked to her and told her?
It would blow her mind that I have 2 sons.
Why? Tell me.
Well, I came from all girls. And
You had sisters, all girls school.
all sisters.
Yeah.
It was all girl. I knew nothing about what raising boys. I didn't. And I was sure I would have girls.
Yes.
And I grew up, you know, playing in a dollhouse. I was really girly girl. So this was new territory. I remember once we had a really close friend of ours staying with us, and he stayed with us for about a week. And he and my younger son, Charlie, they would wrestle, fight in the backyard. And then Andrew called the following week after he'd gone back to his house, and he called just to see how we're doing. And Charlie answered the phone. He was about 4, and he had a lisp. And so Andrew says, "Hey, Charlie, what you doing?" And Charlie goes, "I'm just sitting here waiting to kick your ass." Yeah, I did.
At 4.
Yeah, at 4.
I love it.
Yeah, it was so
It's
good.
So cute.
So-
What would you say to that younger version of you on university? Like, would you have any advice for her?
I would say, first of all, to my younger self, it's going to be okay.
Yeah,
I think probably most people might say that.
that's right. I would.
But I did hear from somebody that I was talking to on my podcast, Wiser Than Me. I was speaking with Alice Waters. I asked her, what would you say? She's 80. What would you say to your 21-year-old self? And she said, pause.
What did she mean? Can we double click on that? Like, what did she mean?
I think she meant slow down.
I mean, you see the disorientation. I was like, what do you mean? I don't understand. Pause. What does that look like? What would that smell like? How would I recognize that?
I gotta go.
I don't have time for that. I don't have time to pause. I don't even have time to hear about a pause. I have a friend who said pause stands for postpone action until serenity emerges.
Ooh, I like that.
So this idea of like, I have to make a decision. No, you don't have to make a decision. Just postpone action until serenity emerges.
Yeah. I mean, boy, does that make sense.
I love your podcast, by the way. I'm so glad that you mentioned it.
Oh, thanks.
What made you decide to do that podcast and have those conversations?
Oh, well, what happened was I saw that Jane Fonda documentary. I was so blown away by the scope of her life. And I thought, wait a minute, what? There are lots of people who are her age, women, who we're not hearing from. Oh, I wish there was something where we could hear from older women and get their advice and their wisdom.
Their journey.
Yes. Wisdom.
Yes.
They've lived it.
Yes.
And you know, older women are
cast aside
they
in society.
I mean, it's like old wise men. You'll sit at their feet. But an older wise woman, old wise woman, not so much culturally. I think there's a need there to hear from these women, and we really have had some extraordinary conversations, you know.
So with the help of Intuit QuickBooks, we are able this season to grant $10,000 to a small business that is rooted in community that you care about.
Yes.
And so can you tell us what business you've chosen?
Yes, I've chosen. By the way, thank you for doing that, because $10,000 can really make a difference. It's very significant chunk of change. So I'm going to donate the $10,000 to the Boys and Girls Club of Santa Barbara, California.
I love that. What's your relationship with the Boys and Girls Club?
Well, my children, one of my sons in particular, spent a ton of time at the Boys and Girls Club. Actually, not in Santa Barbara, but in Los Angeles. But he loved it, and they do wonderful work in supporting youth in their communities. And my husband was also the beneficiary of the Boys and Girls Club because he grew up in Santa Barbara, California. Oh, wow. And I thought it would be nice to bring it to them in SB.
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
So I am a huge Boys and Girls Club kid. I was partly raised by the Boys and Girls Club in the Bronx, the Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club.
Oh, nice.
And it was actually, Jennifer Lopez went to the same Boys and Girls Club in the Bronx.
Kidding.
It was just around the corner from the street that I grew up on.
Wow.
And yeah, so I'm so thrilled that you've chosen this organization.
Oh, I am too. I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to do so.
My name is Michael Baker, and I have the honor of being the CEO for United Boys and Girls Club of Santa Barbara County. Special shout out to Kerry and Julia for your incredible support of our organization. It's going to help us from Lompoc to Carpinteria and everywhere in between.
I have one final question for you.
Yes, madam.
Which is, given that you are absolutely, without doubt, the hero of the story of your life, how would you finish this sentence if I'm telling the story of your life and it begins, once upon a time?
Once upon a time, Pippi Park Avenue set out to do what she needed to do, and she got it done.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I mean, clean and clear. She got it done. I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is great.
Fun. Really fun to be here.
The magic that unfolded at Julia's house on University Avenue sounds like it was a show that was not to be missed. The community she surrounded herself with, the strong women in her life, have stayed with her and guided her and have allowed her to thrive. With partners like Intuit QuickBooks, communities are able to grow and thrive in the same way. Thank you, Julia, for bringing your joie de vivre to Street You Grew Up On. And thank you all so much for watching. Make sure that you like and subscribe and tune in for more.